turned on. I just click it and unmute it. Yeah. Well, yes. Push the bottom button and just and it'll go from there.
So what we'll do that after. We can do it at work. Or we can do it tonight.
Yeah.
Let me know if you want anything. What are we going to do? We're just going to say they want to talk. Let's not do that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Make an announcement tomorrow. So we're gonna start.
But we will always wait for story.
Yes, so I'll be here for any.
Got one right here. All right, if everybody could go ahead and start taking your seats. Okay, so welcome to the 2017 Hall of Fame induction ceremony here at the IDGC. I have to say that this is probably one of the most amazing audiences that I have ever spoken in front of, and I'm extremely excited to be up here representing the Professional Disc Golf Association during this event. How about a round of applause for all of the Hall of Famers that are here right now? Well, good evening, PDJ members, families, and fans. What an exciting evening. I hope everyone's enjoying the 2017 Ed Hedrick Disc Golf Hall of Fame presented by Proactive Disc Sports. The PDJ is very excited to host all of the awesome members this week. We're also honored to have a record number of Hall of Famers gathered here at the International Disc Golf Center. This is also the final stop of the PDGA National Tour, and we're looking forward to crowning the MPO and FPO NT Series Tour champion. Also, if you haven't had a chance yet, please stop by the Proactive Disc Golf display booth to check out the great products and shake the hands of their representatives. Dave and Kevin, or Todd and Kevin over here, if you would raise your hands. How about a round of applause for our presenting sponsors? The Ed Hedrick Hall of Fame Classic will not only be the finale of the PDGA National Tour for years to come, but starting this year, it is also the location of the Disc Golf Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And we're going to continue doing this year to year. And I look forward to watching that grow as we add members to the Disc Golf Hall of Fame. We think this is a perfect fit since it now ties directly to the International Disc Golf Center, which is the home of the PDGA, the Hedrick Memorial Museum, and the Disc Golf Hall of Fame. So while you're here playing on our 3 amazing courses, don't forget to slow down for a moment and take in all the incredible disc golf history that only the IDGC has to offer. And speaking of history, let's get started with the reason you're here tonight, the 2017 Disc Golf Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I am truly excited to turn the floor over to one of my mentors and a Disc Golf Hall of Famer, PDGA number 003, Mr. Dan Stork-Roddick.
Say one thing to a friend and all at once it's on the internet. Is that good? I mean, is that close enough? I mean, can you hear that?
There you go.
How about that?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember what we're supposed to do. Okay, I got it. Do I introduce you again?
When you say a few words, I will
Oh,
introduce
okay.
all Hall of Fame.
Okay, good. Okay.
It's a dance. It's like a dance.
We're old. First of all, welcome to everybody, and what a wonderful setting this is. In my other life, I'm a sociologist, and in that, we're in the business of questioning things that we take for granted, like, why we eat chicken and not cats, that kind of thing. I mean, it's a reasonable question. People have gotten PhDs. So when Speedy asked me to say a few words about the hall, first of all, I'm used to a 4-hour format, and I've got a minute. So that's like asking a marathoner to run 100 meters. So it could be awkward. But I spent a good bit of time thinking about, because I'm a sociologist, thinking about why we do this, because there's a tendency to just keep doing things over because we've done them. And the question I was asking is why do we do this? And I think if you ask the Hall of Famers that we have wonderfully assembled here together, they probably each would have an individual answer from their personal perspective that would be useful and interesting. And I wanted to somehow see in my thinking if I could grasp the overall essence, really to come to grips with why we do it. Because I think it's a legitimate question. What are our goals? What does it really mean? What is that essence? And I think in that contemplation, I think I've come to a realization that I didn't really have before, and that is, I think it's two things really. I think it's to honor our past and to inspire our future. And that combination really serves as a guide. It really serves as a guide for our selection. And I think that you'll see that this year's inductees characterize that perfectly. It's honoring our past, inspiring our future, and that they will help us to shoulder this important opportunity and obligation. And it is both. Because this is an achievement of their lives that we've had the wonderful opportunity to share. And they will be forever admired and emulated. And that just doesn't happen for everyone. So with that in mind, Speedy, let's introduce the Hall of Famers who we have here with us tonight.
We shall. And please, all the Hall of Famers in attendance, for a minute, please stand up with the rest of your members and friends. And thank you all for being here as well. Please stand up. Alan Beaver, Elaine King, Brian Honegger, Jeff Homburg, Joe Fights, Jim Palmieri, Captain Snap Conger, Barry Schultz, Carlton Howard, Derek Robbins, Chuck Kennedy, Sylvia Vokes, Dr. Rick Vokes,
Patty Kunkel, Jerry, Gary, Dropko, David Greenwell, Steve Slazer, Carlton Howard. Thank you all for coming here to welcome your new Hall of Fame members.
And so let's get started with the most exciting and important business of the evening. To introduce our first inductee, we have Joe Fight from Minnesota, and as Joe comes up, I think you all familiar with him. He's senior editor at Disc Golfer magazine, and so you see the world through his words every time a magazine comes into your home, and he is going to share with us his thoughts about our first inductee. Joe?
Very nice. Hello, thank you very much, Stork, and hello, everybody. First of all, I want to thank Joe Chargaloff and the staff for making all of us Hall of Famers feel so welcome and rolling out the red carpet for us. We feel the love, feels very good. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm so honored to introduce one of our 3 new inductees, John Bird. 2 years ago, I was researching a story for Disc Golfer magazine, and one of the first people I talked to was Ray Woodruff of the Mile High Disc Golf Club. And Ray got me in touch with several other people. I ended up interviewing about 6 to 8 people. All of them said the same thing. Have you talked to John Bird yet? And I said, well, I haven't yet, but I'm going to get around to it. Well, talk to him because he's the guy who has got everything going here in Colorado. To any young people out there, I would say the same thing. If you're thinking of relocating, look at Colorado. They have disc golf going there. It's unbelievable. Every day of the week, Monday through Friday, every single day of the year, if it's a beautiful sunny day in the summer or a raging snowstorm, they're playing disc golf there. It's amazing. And the reason why is because John Bird has been promoting that sport tirelessly for 4 decades. Unbelievable. I'm so proud of what he's done. He follows in the footsteps of Johnny Roberts, and Johnny's a Hall of Famer who's not here with us today. But I'll tell you, those 2 guys embody the spirit of the game. I'm just very, very proud to introduce the next inductee, our newest Hall of Fame member, John Bird. Let's give it up for him.
Joe will. They'll hold this phone.
Stay with us right here.
We'll read from John Bird's plaque right here, excuse me. From the early 1970s in California to today in Colorado, John Bird played the game at the highest level. Started up 2 clubs, directed tournaments, installed courses, and continually promoted the game. John founded the legendary United Flyers of Sonoma Club and then co-founded Denver's Mile High Disc Golf Club with its unique focus on charitable giving. Bird flies high in esteem for his decades of service as Colorado State Coordinator or Regional Director. He continues to design and install courses, coach players, and promote disc golf in the Rocky Mountain region. Thank you, John.
It's a great honor. this has been an amazing week. Just PDJ has stepped up and really made a wonderful event here for somebody who's coming in for an induction. It's just amazing, and I'm really humbled with this. I've been doing this for a long time, but there's a couple of people that I'd like to really thank for being here. And one is a real good friend and mentor of mine that goes back to '72, which is George Sappenfield over here. He was instrumental in a lot of early disc golf history, which you can read in Jim Palmieri's book. And so I get my copy signed. Right? Okay. And also my wife, Bev, who supports me in doing all this crazy Frisbee disc golf activities, and when we go off into things and do tournaments. And without that, couldn't be able to do it. One of the philosophies that I've kind of taken from the very beginning was that, as Stork and Jim know, is that we consider ourselves a Frisbee family. So that's the way I looked at it from the very beginning, and even now. And so, as we have families, we're brought into them, and we start growing and growing, and as we do, there will be different groups that will splinter off, and sometimes we're not happy with that, sometimes we are, but it's just part of the evolution. And as long as those, we can nurture that and provide a good beginning and foundation for that, we can continue to grow this sport and this family. And that's the way we still look at it as Colorado, is that we consider ourselves a disc golf family, and when one of us need help, you know, we're all there together. You know, we do fundraisers for each other, we do fundraisers for the community. You know, we want to help, we want to nurture it, and so I'm hoping that all you young players will grasp a hold of that and nurture the sport, and there's many different ways of doing that. And whether it's teaching the new kids coming up, or helping the older citizens that want to come in, or volunteering for a tournament. And I like the way that the World Championships has split up into different groups, because now those that aren't in that tournament, now you have the opportunity to go volunteer and help out with that and help the sport, as well as when you know that group helped you, when that tournament comes up, go help out with that. And that's what helps grow the whole sport and the family. And just have a good weekend. I'm done. Thank you very much. I'm really honored.
Are you my brother?
Thank you, John and Joe. Sometimes it's difficult for us to settle on who to present an inductee, and in this next case, it was relatively easy. We'll be inducting Des Redding, and she wanted her current husband. What? He is. Jay. They're very close. How close, you ask? Okay, listen to this. They share a cell phone. Ain't no affairs going on there. Is Jay there? Who is this? Anyway, Jay, player in his own right, 12-time intergalactic putting champion, many times doubles champion, and he and Des have done over 70,000 school demos. Or I'm sure it seems like it. Okay. It may be less than that, but I'm sure it seems like they have done over 70,000. So, Yeti, come up and let's hear what you have to say.
Stork, you're pretty tall. Now some say that might be a challenge. All right. Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge Dr. Jeff Homburg, because he is actually who nominated Des, and you know, he's suggested that this might be a pretty cool opportunity. So, of course, I was more than honored to jump on that, and thanks, Jeff, for that. Yeah, you know, what an honor and a privilege to be able to share and be part of this moment with, you know, personally the love of my life. We just celebrated our 22nd anniversary just this last Saturday, right? And, you know, in this modern age of where we tend to trade in and out our $800 iPhones every other year, you know, that's quite an accomplishment. You know, and another cool thing too about our anniversary, of course, you know, we do spend pretty much a lot of time together, and you know, that's a great thing. But Des chose to spend her anniversary in Pawnee, Oklahoma, and sharing this great game with a grand opening of a course that I designed, and she helped organize the grand opening event where we gave away 75 discs to an underserved population of the Pawnee Indian tribe in Oklahoma. We had 46 people play in our little event afterwards. We had 11 juniors. So that's how Des spent her 22nd anniversary, so that was pretty awesome. And then turned right around on Monday and did a training in service for 300 physical educators in the Fort Worth Independent School District. So to, you know, be a part of the Hall of Fame, you know, to watch Des be a top player at the highest level in our game, and to be able to express the love and joy that she's found in the game with so many other people, you know, that's kind of the thing that brings it all full circle. All of us can take so many different paths in our lives, and there's no way that Des thought that she was going to be a disc golfer as a career, as a profession, and she's done an amazing job at it. She is a product of the University of Northern Iowa, which actually has now produced 2 Hall of Famers. Juliana Corver and Des went to the University of Northern Iowa. They didn't know each other during college, which is pretty bizarre, being that Des was introduced to disc golf. I think Juliana was playing competitively at the time. And Iowa's also produced a 3rd woman in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, Becky Zalek. So that's pretty amazing that 3 Hall of Fame women have come from the same state there. And, you know, one of the other things, I guess I'll tell a story about Des and myself. We've been constantly touring for almost 20 years. So that's pretty cool by itself, being able to travel and do those things together, and again, expressing our passion all around the country. But I've got video of Des. You know, we're self-taught. You know, a lot of the legendary players that are in our Hall of Fame can probably say that in one form or another as well, whereas our current modern age of disc golfers, part of the reason why we see such an upward trend of talent is because a lot of these players that have gravitated to our legends and our top players, and they've been, you know, taught the game from a very early age. So I've got some pretty cool, you know, as athletes, we knew the best way to to improve our game was to videotape ourselves. So I've got a pretty good video of Des actually doing the X step oppositely. So that's pretty cool. And our first, we got our PDGA numbers in 1999. We went to the Des qualified for the World Championship in 2000. So we got to go and participate in Michigan. And those are some of the places where, you know, I really discovered Des's competitive spirit as well, because, you know, being very new to the game, and obviously all of a sudden in the World Championship, and then finding herself, you know, fighting for the victory. And what other people didn't know behind the scenes is, you know, we're camping out of a truck in a cooler, trying to keep ice on food, and most of you know how that is. But we did that for 10 years. Des had gotten a hawthorn in her hand. So hawthorns are poisonous, if you don't know that. And once it gets in your joint, they swell up. And she's competing, again, for the win with a finger that's just bloated up like a sausage. And she doesn't know what to do about this because she's on the lead card and she's only a couple strokes back. Well, of course, as an amateur surgeon, you know, I'm saying I'm here if you need it. And she's like, absolutely, you know, stick a needle in there and pop this thing. This is crazy. And I'm just like, wow, are you sure we want to be doing this, you know, like here and now? And we gave it a little shot, but in the end, we went to an emergency room, and they're kind of like, oh, you know, you're going to have to deal with this at another time, you know? And like, well, how are you going to deal with it? Well, she's going to compete. She wasn't going to let that bring her down. Then the next night, our Norwegian forest cat that tours around with us all of a sudden caught some kind of a, I don't know, pneumonia or something. But I mean, we thought like almost near death, you know, and here she's trying to concentrate on a world championship and overcoming diversity. And we've watched her overcome diversity over and over and over again as she's won world championships, as she's won U.S. championships. But the cool thing is a lot of those friends that we met that very first Worlds in 2000, they're still our friends today. And that's one of the things I love about Des. She gets to know people, and they get to find out what kind of cool person she is, and they want to spend time with her. And of course, I'm one of those people, and I want to spend as much time with her as possible. So I'd like to have you all help me welcome our first 5-digit PDGA number Hall of Famer, Miss Des Redding.
Des Redding possesses the skills of an elite-level competitor combined with those of a world-class ambassador. Redding's star rose swiftly, attaining multiple world and U.S. championships. She amassed over 200 professional wins during nearly 2 decades of touring. Redding has been a constant advocate for girls and women in the sport. She co-founded the Educational Disc Golf Experience and has educated tens of thousands of youths and teachers about the virtues of disc golf and saving green space. Having received the PDGA Edge Award and the Steady Ed Trophy and the Bob West Sportsmanship Award are testaments to the disc golfer that is Des Redding. Congratulations.
I do, I have props. So I'm not dead or graduating, but I am in the Hall of Fame. So feel free to like look through a collage of photos. Hello, hello, hello. I normally never write speeches, and it's true today. I have tons of notes from when I first got the word from Mr. Homburg and Speedy that I was into the Hall of Fame, and that was Vermont. So I thought, oh, I'll write down my feelings, and then maybe I'll come up with a speech. Well, it tended to be that I just thought about my speech all day and never wrote much down, and then wrote about a bunch of feelings that I was feeling about getting inducted. And they were all really positive. A few of them, you know, toggled between like, it's not enough time. I don't have enough time to prepare for this. And I wanted to be really classy because for 18 worlds, I've been to 18 consecutive worlds, and in those 18 worlds, I went to each and every Hall of Fame. I was a sporty girl growing up. My dad leveled me in all the games that I ever played, and it made me realize how you have to be a real competitor and have that drive and spirit to be the best, or to be just a really good person and overcome the failures of competition. And so the Hall of Fame, I know, is a pinnacle of what we all achieve. In all those worlds, I'd sit there and I'd look at all the Hall of Famers. Some of you I knew personally, some of you I knew through the Hall of Fame induction. And it was quite remarkable. And I think of, oh, gosh, someday I hope that I can get up there. I knew my play was good, but I looked at the Hall of Famers and I was like, it's much more than just your play. You have to be a ambassador. You have to grow the sport. And that was an easy thing for me to think about doing because I did love it. When I first started to play disc golf, I just knew it was a fantastic game. It saved the green space. It allowed me to be competitively, individually, but still have a camaraderie with my group. The one that I wish they had good shots. I'm only playing the course. I don't need to see bad ricochets or, you know, I had none of those feelings that went out there to have someone throw a bad round because I needed to win. You know, I knew I needed to win because I played the course well. So when I looked through all those Hall of Famers, and here's all my other notes of things. Now I'm traveling through, oh, that's a long time ago. This is my little thing. But the first to start, I have to definitely thank my two families. My Bebout family, with my family, my side, and the Reddings. There's no way I could be where I am without the support of my family. And that goes all through my cousins, my mom and dad. Right after this, I travel back to Iowa, and I'm going to celebrate my grandma's 90th birthday. So with that, I thank the Hall of Fame. Thank you for taking the time to consider me and looking at my body of work and feeling it was on par to what I feel like your bodies of works have done. So I'm greatly honored with that. I have been with the Iowa team and the Iowa crew back when Tom Kramer, Jeff Harper threw a free clinic for me. That was instrumental. Jay and I have never charged for a clinic because of Jeff Harper. Free clinics are where it's at. Give your time freely. It comes back to you. The Texas, I learned to throw big hyzers and really develop my game in Texas. And the Texas peeps, you guys still shepherd me and love me through thick and thin. I appreciate it. I also have a great group of women with the WTFs. Yes, that's women throwing frisbees. And the Lolos. And Team P, Team Penetration. You can't penetrate without penetration. So Team P, I love you. And of course, there's always Jay. I'm going to save him. But I've had some really good sponsors. Innova Champion got on board with me before I even won my world championships. They knew, I think, or they saw a spark that might produce a world champion. And thank you, Innova Champion, for taking the time to have that faith in me. That little bit of faith has kept me going, and it kept me on the road for 18 or so years. There's also Equalizer by Fred Salas, Birdie Bags, Brock, Keenan Solomon, David Monk. Thank you for having the vision to get disc golf on a national platform. I was also sponsored by Patagonia, Maui Gym. These are things that weren't really known because a lot of people, I'm just not a vain person and self-promote a whole lot. But disc golf, we are on the radar for people. We're looking at it. So please continue to be stewards of the game and stewards of the way you present yourself, because it does make a big difference. And to the Hall of Famers, just a quick little recap of some of you. I have personal stories about most of you, but some of the ones that are in attendance. Alan Beaver, I remember when I first met him, incredibly kind off the course, but a very ferocious player on the course. Something that I thought, oh, you know, that's a good way to be. There's Elaine King. She's my all-time favorite woman player. Can't beat Elaine King. Brian Henniger. You remembered my name after the very first time I signed up for the PDGA. I came to the 2000 Worlds and you knew who I was. You also in 2005 made me cry when I talked about the payout schedule. So Brian, thank you for all of you've ever done for me and for the disc golf. Joe Fight, you're always such a kind spirit when you follow me around, and I'm glad you like that Stingray because it is a fun one to throw. Jim Palmieri, he's an innovator. He used to have a little mini basket thing that he wanted to kind of put out there. But it's the innovation that is going to keep us going forward. I got Stork. I mean, he's 003. Enough said. Derek Robbins, he has pure joy. When I got to hang out with him in Australia, I got to see just like what pure joy is to have love for the sport. There's Chuck Kennedy. Can't get off of Chuck Kennedy with my lively conversations that I've had for many, many years about many, many, many different things. David Greenwell, he's just a stud. J. Gary Dropchow, I mean, this guy, he set the bar. For many years, I wrote to the PDGA in, please stop capping the pro women's division. Please stop it. We're never going to grow. Jay Gary took it one step further when he did the TDing in Pennsylvania, and he brought our cap up. And we filled. You know, we were a big division at that point in time. Dr. Rick and Sylvia, the couple that plays together, stays together. You're a great inspiration for Jay and I. And I'm sure there's tons more, but those are just the ones that I had off at the top of my list. And yeah, it seems like you want to stand up here for a while. I don't know, John Bird. I feel like I want to bask in it a little bit more because you only get one shot when you're up here. I started playing in 1992. I took a little break and joined the PDJ in 1999. I hardly took a break. I just played, and I didn't know how to join the PDJ at that time. I had a 15-year-old that I just played with in Wisconsin, Haley King, and she was like, oh, why didn't you join the PDJ when you first started playing? And I was like, it was called the newsletter. There was no internet. Those videos that Jay was talking about, those are locked on VHSs. So, I mean, that's kind of why I put this together. I'm not a real social media person. I have a lot of pictures, and I kind of felt like I wanted to share those memories that I cherish, that everyone has given me. I hope that I can return the favor to other people, and that's how I present disc golf. I remember I was listening to the Hall of Famers on the Smashbox last night, and everyone wanted to talk about your low PDJ number, your low PDJ number. And yes, if I would have had any inkling of what disc golf was, my dad was a big softball pitcher. So not like I was a fast pitch, he was a slow pitch. So he played some slow pitch, and at Madrid Park in Edgewood, this is Madrid, Iowa, and it was Edgewood Park, there was a disc golf basket. But no one would play disc golf when people were playing softball or other activities because it was kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. You were playing around those facilities. And all we knew as kids, that when you threw something at it, it made a great noise. And that great noise that we always did with it was rocks, softballs, other things. I mean, there was never a frisbee or a disc that presented itself for us to think about throwing that in there. I think about how my life would have been different if I would have been able to have that opportunity. And likewise in 92, if I would have got that number around when Juliana was running around the tourist park. And again, thank you, Steady Ed, for donating my first course, which was Tourist Park in 1976, to a phys ed teacher, and he put it in the ground. I started to play just as a college break, and I could have joined the PDGA, maybe I could have. But all I know that over those years, those could haves and should haves, it doesn't really matter. Because what I did was, I did it, and I found it. And the path that I happened to become on is a great one. So thank you, Hall of Famers, PDGA, for throwing tournaments, for allowing me the opportunity to live a life that's completely free, like the Frisbee. I'm kind of choking up. Because it feels really good to be able to be part of a family that as you tour around, you can, you get to see familiar faces and family smiles, and it's a really nice thing to, it's an interesting concept when you live on the road. You have a lot of great contacts and relationships, but you don't have anything that's completely permanent either. Because you do travel around. If you look at my address book, and I still keep an address book, it's actually not for your name. If you have your name in there with your last name, you are truly special to me. But mostly it is who's in Texas, who's in Pennsylvania, who's in California, who's in Colorado. And I know when I go to these states that I'm able to look at my state and find family and friends. But again, it's not so much of a permanent thing when you travel around, but I do feel a great love as I travel around, and it satisfies everything that I've ever needed, and hopefully I ever want. So thank you again. I love the Frisbee family. Thank you. Jeff Homburg for inviting me.
Well, this is awkward because I'm the introducer of the introducers, and I'm the next introducer. For those of you who are more realistic in your expectations, and you're thinking, well, I probably won't make the Hall of Fame, but maybe someday, I could be an introducer. You might have noticed the standard that we have for the introducers. Did you pick up on it? No one? You got to be 2 meters. All of our introducers are 2 meters tall, and we're intending to stay with that as a tradition. So it's available to anyone who's 2 meters. Anyway, to introduce our next introducer. For some reason, when people get introduced, sometimes they say, and now for a man who needs no introduction, and then they do 20 minutes. So now for a man who needs no introduction, thank you, Stork. Thank you. You're welcome. I spent the last few days with my dad in Pennsylvania. He's 96, and as part of the time with him, I mean, when you're dealing with a loved person who's 96, you kind of mutually realize you're at end game, and each visit's important because it crosses our minds that it could be the last time. I live in California, he's in Pennsylvania. And so you talk about pretty important things, I hope. And I asked him one evening, we were sitting, I said, so what's the takeaway? What are the most important things? What are the most memorable things? And he said, well, interestingly enough, I think that some of the contributions I was able to make that I believe will be the longest lasting. And he mentioned there's a disc golf course that we believe it's kind of between Sedgley and this course at Dogwood Acres was the first in Pennsylvania. And when he put it in, it was just truck tires. I'll eventually get to you, Brian. It was truck tires that we had cut out the inner wall, and then we played to it. And that course has been there since '77. And thousands of families have had wonderful, life-affirming experiences on the course, just like Des and Ray said about the experiences that they've had. And he said that is probably going to be as close to immortality as I get. That's going to continue to give part of what we contributed. That's going to continue, because when you think of the other kinds of things you do, I don't know what the hedge fund guys say about their contribution. Like, when I'm gone, people will trade stock futures like they did before me. I mean, it's just to leave that behind, seriously, to leave that behind and have that be a continuing contribution, that's as close to immortality as we get. And to set the broader context, and he even mentioned this, that the space telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope, it fairly recently realized, as it peered at a previously dark section of the sky, that there were billions more stars in the universe than even Sagan thought when he first explained that to us. Billions, to the point that now the easy to remember analogy is that there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. More stars. So more solar systems than we'd ever imagined before. So that puts our little place that we have here in context. And when I thought about what's the immortality of Brian, who we're about to induct, and some of us probably have to struggle to think what that is. I think it's going to be easy for him, because when you look at this place on our planet and you think about how much it has done and will do for people for perpetuity, and you think of all the things that flowed from Brian's passion and expertise and care and attention to detail in those 10 years that he led this organization, that's as close to immortality as we get. To make those kinds of contributions that will continue to enrich people's lives forever. That's as good as it gets. And that's what makes Brian Graham a no-brainer Hall of Famer. Let's bring him up.
Light here. Brian Graham, and the lighting is tough out here. Let's come up here if you don't mind, please. I can read it there. Thank you, Brian. And since the early 90s, Augusta disc golfer Brian Graham set his sights on growing the sport for the benefit of others. His leadership led the founding and the organizing of his hometown club. Brian has been named Tournament Director of the Year for 4 major events. He brought vision to the development of the International Disc Golf Center, even before he took on a decade working as PDGA Executive Director. For his positive results, Brian has received virtually every volunteer and service award a disc golfer may garner. For his dedication, Brian Graham is recognized as a peer among leaders in disc golf. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I hate speaking in front of groups, just so you know, but I found that when you can't see the group, it's much easier. So this is great. Joe, y'all ought to work on darkening the audience for your future speeches. The great philosopher, Groucho Marx, once said, "I refuse to join any club whose standards are so low that they would accept me as a member." And I share those feelings. Despite this, I am extremely honored to accept this induction to the Hall of Fame, and extremely humbled to be considered in the same company as many of the great pioneers and players in our sport. Al Guerrero, Speedy, as we all know him, called me a few weeks ago to let me know about my induction, and he read off a list of names and asked me what I thought they all had in common. And he read Ed Hedrick, Dan Roddick, Jim Palmieri, Patty Kunkel, Rick and Sylvia Vokes, David Greenwell, Elaine King, Carlton Howard, Alan Beaver, Snap Conger, Chuck Kennedy, Brian Honinger, Joe Fight, Derek Robbins, J. Gary Droptro, and Brian Graham. Without skipping a beat, I responded, "It sounds like a list of old people who used to be good at disc golf." Except for that last guy.
But seriously, unbeknownst to many of you guys in the audience, the Hall of Famers, you guys have served as an inspiration to me. You've been mentors to me. You've been my heroes. And I just hold you at the highest light. A person does not get into the Hall of Fame by themselves. Included with them is a support system of family, friends, and co-workers who help make all of their accomplishments possible. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my wife, Coleman, my son, Luke, my daughter, Caroline, for being here tonight and for putting up with my crazy work schedule and play all these years. I'd also like to thank my local mentors, Pete May and Walter Clay, who taught me a lot about disc golf, as well as all the members of the Augusta Disc Golf Association who helped me throughout the years with all the crazy projects and things that we undertook. Lastly, but most importantly, I'd like to thank and recognize a group of people that I personally consider the biggest heroes in our sport. They are the PDJ staff members, past and present, who I had the pleasure of working with the past 10 years. And I'm asking all of them to stand up right now, please. Yay. Joe Chargaloff, you please stand up as well. These are the most dedicated and loyal people I've ever had the pleasure to work alongside, and I give them all the credit for taking our association to levels of success that we're enjoying today. I include in this group our new executive director, Joe Chargaloff, who's a top-notch guy who I have no doubt will take our association to even greater levels moving forward. I'm so fortunate I've been able to work with all of you, and I cannot thank you all enough. Everyone, please join with me in showing them our appreciation. All right, so due to Ace Mason's lengthy 16-page acceptance speech at the Pro Worlds last year, I feel inclined to keep my speech brief to make up for that lost time. So in closing, I'd like to pass on a piece of advice that a fellow Hall of Famer shared with me years ago. Back in 2002, as a much younger, very enthusiastic PDJ member, I phoned the PDJ office in Toronto, Canada, to speak with the executive director, Brian Honegger, to tell him about a cool opportunity I thought we had here in Columbia County to build a multi-course complex at Wildwood Park. I needed to tap into the vast resources of the PDGA, the international governing body of the sport, to assist me with the project. As he so often does, Brian Honegger eloquently responded with the best piece of advice I've ever received from anyone in our sport. He said something along the lines of, PDJ is a very small organization with a staff of 1.5 employees, and we have very limited resources. As a member of this association, you are the PDGA, and we rely on you to help us grow the sport. Therefore, as executive director of the PDJ, I am empowering you, Brian Graham, to seize the day. As a PDJ member, make this project happen for your association. I didn't even quite understand what that meant at the time, but using Brian's advice and Stort's blueprint for a mecca for disc golf, here we are today with over 100,000 PDGA members and a staff of 11 employees at our very own international headquarters. So in closing, I'd just like to remind everybody that an association by definition is a group of people who join forces together to work together towards a common goal. PDJ is not the board of directors, it's not the staff, it's not this building. You all are the PDGA. We are the PDGA. So by the power invested in me, as a fellow PDJ member and newest inductee into the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, I'm empowering and challenging everyone here to seize the day and undertake a personal project, big or small, to support our organization and grow our sport. Imagine the impact. The power is in our hands. Seize the day. Thank you.
are coming to a close for the ceremony and the celebration tonight, I do want everybody to give a good kind of Wolfian yell or howl for all of our Hall of Famers who have left us over the last few years. And so this is a celebration, and to all of you and to anybody who's ever played disc golf, has been a Hall of Fame member before, it has been a pleasure for me to work with the Hall of Famers for so many years, and the passion that they have given to the energy that they work with for every project in disc golf over the 40 years of contributions that they have amassed over so many years. And this is the celebration that I have always envisioned. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Hall of Famers who came from very far away, as far as England, from California, from Minnesota, from New York, to come and join us. Thank you, everyone, and I'll leave the last few words to Joe. Thank you all.
I'll take over for Joe really quickly, guys. I'm Mike Downs. I'm the events manager for the PJ, and I just want to thank you, Speedy. Thank you, Stork. Thank you, all of you Hall of Fame members, for coming out and joining us and being a part of the Hall of Fame Classic and being our inspiration for the Hall of Fame Classic. We do appreciate each and every single one of you, so thank you. I encourage all of you to visit the Hall of Fame tent back there and meet some Hall of Famers. We do have some discs that are signed by our newest inductees, or will be very shortly. And we encourage you to get up there and meet and mingle with some of our sport's greatest stars. And while we're doing so, we're actually going to have a band set up on stage. Let's keep this celebration going. Let's have a great time tonight. We want you guys to have fun. And thank you again for coming. We appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great night, folks.